What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode here of Radio Wigwam, Palangi Studio of Rock. Today we got drummer extraordinaire in the building, David Nestor, who currently drums for Aaron Lewis from the band Stained as well. Just take those two and smush them together. What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Good. Where are you at right now?
Right now we're in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
How's the weather going?
Right now it's actually not bad. I walked over and got some Chipotle. It was probably mid-70s, sunny.
Okay.
Really nice.
Okay. Now, everyone, he's on tour right now with Aaron Lewis, and what I want to know is my first question would be food. How's the food diet on the tour?
Well, I mean, you don't have to eat bad food, but
you don't have to eat it all.
Right.
Yeah.
So after show food is usually what people always say is the bad food, like pizza on the bus around 11,
Okay.
11:30, something like that, right before you go to bed. Not always ideal. A lot of times we get fast food instead of pizza, but if you really wanted to like focus on a diet, you just have to label your food on the bus and nobody else eats it and try to take up the fridge before everybody else does.
Yeah, that must be hard too. Be like, the dude ate my macaroni.
Yeah. I mean, we do get bus stock, which is cool, but it's just standard stuff to make sandwiches, chips,
Yeah.
waters, stuff like that. But
Yep.
I mean, it's not too hard. Surprisingly, when I did van and trailer tours, that was different because there wasn't anywhere to keep food, so you basically had to do fast food. It was the most affordable way of doing it.
Yeah. They bring it to you every day, or do you have to get it?
Usually you would have to do it,
Okay.
or like the tour manager would kind of coordinate it, and then everybody would make an order together. We
Yep.
do that sometimes too. If the venue doesn't provide food, we do a group order somewhere. Whatever's convenient, honestly.
That's one thing I never get is why wouldn't a venue provide band food? You know what I mean? You're playing, they might as well feed you.
Yeah, a lot of tours, from my experience, they do what they call a buyout. So if they don't provide food, they'll give you money to go get it or order it yourself. But yeah, some of the nicest venues I've been in this year don't provide any food. It's been confusing.
Did they give you water at least?
Yeah. You get bus stock is what they call. So you always get like whatever's on your bus stock rider. So like chips and salsa, peanut butter and jelly, bread, meat and cheese, sometimes apples, LaCroix, whatever the band requests to be on the bus.
Plus in the hotels,
so that's usually fulfilled.
They have breakfast, so you can kind of swipe whatever you want. You know, bananas and all that kind of stuff. Being a drummer, I know what it's like being a singer, but being a drummer, what do you have to eat, or what do you have to watch out for? Like, can you eat pizza at 11 o'clock and be okay for the next day, or?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times you don't have an option, and if you play a late show, because a lot of our shows have been starting at like 9:30, end by 11-ish.
Yeah.
Then we have to pack up, because I don't have a drum tech currently, so I still have to pack up my gear.
Ooh.
So, I mean, you're still pretty hungry after the show.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I definitely would say you can easily do that because I have to on a daily basis. But you want to definitely pace yourself. I only eat like a piece or two, if that.
Yeah.
Small
meals, right?
When I first started to do this, I didn't necessarily do that. And you'll wake up regretting it pretty quickly.
You're like, I was like, why the hell is he talking about food today? I'm in a food mood.
Yeah. Food coma. That's real.
Yeah, and it's a lot of, I always say, like, fans and stuff, they don't think how food is a major important part of a tour, and somehow how it's almost like a big pain in the ass sometimes, especially if you sing too, where you're like, you have to have certain things, you have to do certain things in order to perform. I'm always like, probably, I never thought of it, but the drummer and the singer probably have the hardest diet part, where a guitarist could go out there in any shape and probably be okay. I always said that.
For the most part. There's different levels.
Not
for sure,
drunk,
but I mean,
but
right. On our bus, we almost always have tea and a little pot to make tea and coffee.
Yep.
And honey and everything else that vocalists might use to keep their throat and vocal cords in check, you know what I mean? Because we do have two guys besides Aaron that sing, and those guys usually are pretty good about having tea and taking good care of themselves physically.
Plenty cough drops.
Yeah, I don't know if they do cough drops, but I've heard that helps.
It does. Now, a little thing. So I opened for Aaron in 2013, And I specifically, when we're on this topic, asked him, we were hanging out, and I go, "What do you do to prep your voice, to warm up your voice?" And he goes, "I just smoke cigarettes." That's all
Probably
he
sounded just
does.
like that. It probably sounded just like that too.
I was like, really? I've never seen a guy with an electric cigarette, a regular cigarette, and something else, and just going through one thing at a time.
Oh,
I was
really?
like, yeah, I was
I haven't
like,
I haven't seen the e-cigs yet. I know he
oh.
smokes regular cigarettes,
Well,
but
this was 2013, so they were, I
it was
guess
a while ago.
legal then too. Now I don't think they're legal anymore, at least not in New York.
No, they're starting to get rid of a lot of them, aren't they?
Yeah, which
I
is
don't
probably
vape or anything, so
a good thing.
yeah, yeah.
But
Especially if it's doing bad things to your health.
I
Yeah,
laughed
Aaron
my
is
ass off when I heard that.
he's definitely one of those. Some people call him like a vocal freak because he doesn't need to warm up really. He can go up there
Yeah.
normally and just kill it for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and
Yep.
then do the same thing. And he tours with his acoustic stuff almost all year. So like we're done with our full band tour October 2nd. It's our last full band show, and he's doing the next 5 to 6 months all acoustic.
Wow. And he's doing
Yeah, I don't know.
Stained too at the
I
same
don't know
time,
exact
right?
dates. Yeah, so that tour starts, um, I think September 6th or 7th in
Yep.
Massachusetts. I'm going to be out there as a drum tech and doing playback for them.
Okay. I know somebody
So I'm kind of
mentioned
just
that show, and I was like, "Oh yeah." I go, "It's coming up. It's pretty close too."
yeah, I think they're doing 12 or 13 dates in September.
Nice.
So we have 2 days of one day of tech rehearsal, one day full band rehearsal, and then a show all at the same place up in Massachusetts. So should be pretty good. It'll be my first time working with Stained as a tech, but I met them as a tech for Korn when they opened for Korn
Okay.
on the summer tour last summer. So that's kind of how this all came to be.
Nice. One thing always leads to another.
Yeah, man.
I just watched
Yeah.
the '99 Woodstock thing with Korn and how they tore apart the audience. That was like the
Yeah.
line in the sand, step number one for the downfall of that.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a cool documentary though.
Yeah, that was really neat. And
Yeah.
so before I want to get into some of your background too, but one of my questions is, so you guys change your songs up because obviously Aaron Lewis's country stuff got his country and then he's got his rock, hard rock. I like the mix that you do between throwing in like the hard rock version of what you think is the Stain song, and then all of a sudden you hear slide guitar or you hear something like that or a harmonica. And I'm just wondering, for you as a drummer, do you go about where, okay, I'm going to learn like the Stained rock version, and then, I know Aaron's country stuff. Do I do something in between? Do I change parts? Or like, what's your thinking on that?
So when I first got the gig, that was definitely my thinking. So they sent me a set list plus extra songs we might change out.
Yep.
And before they sent me a board mix, because they actually had a full band board mix of Aaron Lewis and the State Liners from before, because they had the same drummer for about 10 years.
Yep.
But he had done it for, I don't know, 30 plus years, and he was ready to retire. He was in his mid 50s, so it was time,
Oh, wow.
Great drummer, great country drummer from Texas. But he wrote some pretty cool parts that Aaron wanted us to keep. So like at first I learned the album versions of all of these songs, his country stuff and the Stain stuff. But then, a few weeks into learning it, they were like, no, you need to learn the board mix. So they sent me a board mix, and it is very different than the record.
Like, I got it. All of a sudden,
Well, there's interludes and like intros, and the way they transition from song to song sometimes is, it's really important to have it exactly the way that he wanted it because it's his show, and
that's what
it's a
used
comfortability.
to.
Yeah, it's a comfortability thing. So
is there a click? Do you play for a click at all? A couple songs or no?
Most of the songs I have a click. Yeah, I have my iPad with a tempo app. No backing tracks or any playback or anything. Just click for me, and then the guitar player, the lead guitar player Chuck, gets click.
Okay.
So we at least start every song with it, and it's usually for a delay pedal mostly, and to get us on track.
Yeah.
But depending on the day and the crowd, sometimes the show can ebb and flow. So if Aaron is going a little slower on a song, feeling it out, I'll stop the click and we'll just flow with him.
Oh, okay.
But it's definitely something that I've been told a few times I need to try to make sure I push so he doesn't slow down too much. Like that's my job, obviously.
Okay. Yeah, because sometimes you have no idea. You know what I mean?
Right.
With especially being a singer out there, or it's like you feel like you're playing fast enough, and you watch the footage back, and you're like, that was slow. You
Yeah,
ever realize
yeah.
that?
Oh yeah, yeah. The adrenaline on stage changes everything, man.
Yeah.
It is a good thing to be on track when it comes to the click, but it also just needs to be a backup for your own personal tempo. So a lot of people rely on it so much they can't play with their own natural metronome.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
over the years, that's actually, in my opinion, more important because electronics are not always reliable.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
if something happens to where if you have a playback system that goes off, which it happened, in the past, which we can talk about from my playback and drum teching gigs I've had. But normally the band should be able to play without any of that stuff because that's how it all started, right?
Yeah.
Back in the
Yeah.
day, nobody used them.
No. There's
So
the drummer. Drummer
that's
and the
why the
bass
drummer's
player are
there.
the housing of they keep the beat,
Supposed to. A lot of my friends nowadays rely on it pretty hard, and I'm like, just make sure you practice without because you never know.
I don't rely on it, but we did it. So there's drums, and I play electric and sing. So there's no bass, and all the extra stuff is on a backing track to the actual song. And the drummer will actually it's almost like being in a studio. He'll actually play that version of it. But you'd be surprised. I don't hear any of that. So there's still room to maneuver around, even though he's playing to a click, and actually the recording is kind of playing. You know what I mean? I was surprised where it's like, well, you'd be surprised. You can lag a little bit, and then you can do things. But you're right. Everything's got to be planned that way. If you're gonna have a part in between, it's gonna be longer. You have to edit it with a computer and then export it, and there you go. So that's cool. I've never thought about where you start with the click just so you're on track, you get an idea, and you're not too far off, and then turn it off.
I mean, the goal is to keep it on, definitely. Like the whole show, if I can. But there are certain parts where we'll play one part slower if the crowd gets into a chant or something.
Yeah.
Because Aaron will get them. No, that'll never be a thing with this gig. I'll tell you that.
No.
No little not this gig.
No.
No. I'll throw in some cool fills when we as a group like get big, and then at the very end of the set there's like a little bit of fun double bass and fun fills. But no, it's pretty straightforward. They need me to be
right on
the backbone and stick with it because I mean at a certain level you're just supposed to play what you're supposed to play and then get off stage. So
yeah.
It's a discipline too because a lot of people are always like, man, is country boring? And they ask me if I'd rather be playing something else. And it's all in your own perspective, I think.
Yeah.
Being a professional drummer doesn't mean you're doing a drum solo every single time you get on stage. And it also doesn't mean you're playing as fast as you can and sweating like crazy. Sometimes it's about finesse and technique and like just being part of the band because it's not my show, right? So I try to be as entertaining as possible without distracting too much,
Yeah. Yeah. I know
sometimes even if drummers can be amazing and like rip it up, sometimes like you're playing a little too much because we need to focus. We're not animals as leaders, right?
Yeah.
I'm not up there with two other virtuosos that can rip or whatever, and we're just playing music. It's mostly based around the vocals.
I've seen that in the YouTube videos and stuff too, where I was like, I noticed where you were keeping the groove and stuff, and you throw in some of the things that you like of your own, like you said, some fills and stuff, but primarily it's the same drum parts and the flow and all that, which is cool.
Yeah, you got to be tasteful with it so it's not too like repetitive. It does keep it interesting for myself too, but
yeah, because you might find some songs the beats are similar, you know what I mean, and you're like, well, what can I throw in live maybe to?
For sure, we have two that are almost identical with the BPMs and with like the format of the song and the beat.
Yeah.
So I have to mix it up a little bit without throwing them off because it needs to be pretty close to the same.
Now, is there? I noticed music that's coming out now. There's not too many songs where the chorus has a ride anymore. Remember, like the '70s, the '60s, even the '80s, almost every chorus, a lot of chorus had that ride stuff. Now it's like gone. It's barely even there. I'm like, you don't even need a ride cymbal anymore.
A lot of bands don't. They just do hi-hat and crashes, and then they have like a bell on top of one of your crashes.
Like a China. Whoosh, I seen that China that you had.
Yeah. Sometimes when I like before we moved from Ohio, my drum studio, I was starting to like expand the kit, and I had two Chinas on either side, which is great. A lot of fun for accents and stuff.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
So everybody, you can check out David. He's got a YouTube channel. I noticed he does the V vlog. The what is that? V blog log.
It's a video
Vlog. Yeah.
a video blog basically, but they
Yeah.
call them vlogs. It's
It's
kind of
hard to
annoying,
say.
but yeah.
Well, it's not though, because you're documenting your touring, you're documenting experiences, and let's go into so these videos of you doing like cover songs and different like drum solo stuff. That's in your
Mhm.
home studio.
That was, yeah. So we
Okay.
moved to outside of Nashville, actually in the middle of this tour. So we wanted to kind of capitalize on selling our house while the market was good for
Yeah.
sellers.
Yeah.
So we did that. We moved from Ohio to Nashville, and I don't have a studio currently. So we're working on that. I got to figure out some gigs first because obviously studio stuff is not cheap.
No, it takes a long time to get together and build and
Yeah. So we don't really have a lot of space in the house we moved into.
okay.
So I might look into getting like one of those sheds they can actually deliver to the house and then retrofit the inside just for drum studio stuff.
Yeah, and they have the high
But
peaked
that's
ceilings already.
yep. So I might look into getting one of those and just making it all about recording and doing video and audio for drums. And then if we ever move, I can take that shed with me. So we might even look into like the tiny homes that are built on like a actual chassis
Yep.
with wheels and an axle to see. But
Yep.
this is further on down the line. I have to save up a little bit first.
And
So
you can actually record parts and stuff from your house if you wanted to, right? Like demos and
yep.
stuff.
Yep. So that's what I was able to do at the old house. So yeah, a lot of my
Okay.
drum videos, you'll see a yellow wall with sound panels on the walls, and then I painted the walls white. All of those videos were from my old drum studio in Ohio.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
You released one that surprised me. I go, I know he's got some like metal in him somewhere. You just
Yeah.
released the metal drum cover. Is that Stone Sour Slipknot, one of those?
Slipknot. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a Slipknot song called Unsainted.
Yep.
But yeah, that was one of the first ones I did. It was like back in 2020, right when the
Okay.
pandemic had kind of shut down all the touring.
Yep.
So I was like, well, it's time to start making videos at the house. So I had luckily a decent size enough room in the basement that was just for storage that we completely rebuilt and made it into that. And I was able to do quite a bit of recording in there and do a lot of videos. So
Yeah.
I was thankful for sure to have that.
Yeah, because it's like, what else are we gonna do during this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Besides
Yeah.
get sick.
Right. And moving closer to like,
Oh,
Music City,
yeah.
all my friends that I know there that play, they have to rent studios or rent spaces because a lot of them still live in apartments, or even if they have houses, they're too close to other people to like play full kits. So
That gets costly too.
it does. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know Aaron, he's got a place in Massachusetts, I think. He lives like 3 hours from me. Does he why did you move to Tennessee? Was it because it's more centralized or
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity there. So bands I'd worked with in the past, the gig I gave up to another drum tech friend before this gig came along, the Aaron Lewis gig, was drum teching for Greta Van Fleet, and they're based out of Nashville.
wow, yeah.
They used to be based out of Michigan, where they're from, but they moved down there for management and label, and it just centralized. You can keep all your gear there. You have practice spaces you can rent in those places. So right now, I
Okay.
think, there's tons of spots in Nashville. You have SIR, Claire, PGP. There's a lot of places to keep gear and also rehearse,
Okay.
like
What
full size rooms to do full rigs and everything.
what have you done before this? Go into a little bit of history of where'd you start? Did you start at a young age or
Kind of. So I started touring. My first tour was doing merch for my buddies in a band called the Devil Wears Prada. Because
okay.
they were from the Dayton area too, because that's where I'm from, Dayton, Ohio.
Mhm.
Grew up there anyway, born in New York, but they had a merch need last minute, and I was just doing a lot of local band stuff, just working locally as like a server at a restaurant, trying to make music work. And I was like, well, I'll quit the server job and try tour, see what happens. Luckily, networking with the bands that were on the tour, it led to one of my first touring gigs that following year, playing drums for a band called Mychildren, Mybride.
Okay.
They were like a hardcore band on Solid State. They're still around. I just don't know if they tour very much.
Okay.
Don't
Did
really
you
talk to those guys
did
anymore.
you make any money that very, very first tour?
I did actually, because
Okay.
merch guys, you can make tips, and depending on your deal, sometimes you get percentage of sales.
Okay.
I didn't at the time, and they paid me enough to pay my bills for sure. They took care of me. It was
Wow.
my first tour was on a bus with them. but then I like moved backwards technically because I went to a van and trailer for my first playing gig.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's definitely the way to go, in my opinion. You got to work your way up. But if I know a lot of people who have only toured on buses.
Yeah, it's like you do the hotel room stuff. That gets costly too. But
it
yeah,
can, unless you
yeah.
like do joint rooms and whatever. But yeah, so started doing that, and then I took a long break, about 6.5 years.
Oh,
I
really?
was married, and it wasn't really a good situation to tour at the time. It's a lot of personal stuff that probably just don't want to get into. It's a little annoying and dramatic, but not anymore. I mean, I'm happier now. We both are in a better place.
Good, good.
And
Well,
once
touring
the
is
divorce,
hard on any relationship because you're not there. You know what I mean?
and when you're like trying to work your way up financially, it's not always ideal. You always have to have
No.
something else to make money on the side or when you're home.
Or there's a gig that comes up and it's like, well, it's that big opportunity gig and you got to go play it, but either you're not getting paid or you're getting paid a little bit. But then there's this tour coming out. You know, so what do you do? You know what I mean? Do you
Right.
go for, you know, the award show that's free, or you know what I mean?
Right.
But it's gonna cost you $2,000 yourself to play that show.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically, as soon as the divorce was done, I had been in and out of some pretty solid construction jobs and made good money, but was never satisfied. Was always kind of looking back on the music thing and how much I wanted that to be my career, and had that direction because I'd seen so much success in close friends that had been in the industry for a while.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, what do I need to do to get to that point? So divorced in 2015. I think it was August of 2015, and I was on tour in September because I had put my feelers out to my network and I said, hey, I don't care if I need a drum tech or whatever. I just want to be involved in the touring industry. I want to be a drummer for sure, but I know getting back into it, that's not easy to get your name back out there because nobody knew who I was.
Yeah. Did you know Brian Craddock from the band Daughtry around that time?
No, I don't think so.
Because I thought your name came up somewhere between those years. I was trying to look for a drummer to record with.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was it might have been a year later though.
Okay.
But I swore as you look familiar and stuff, and I was like, well, I think he was on a tour with somebody else. Somebody else mentioned him. But I don't know if we went with Scotty Derrico, and then the record after we had I think somebody else on there. But what was it leading to? I don't know. Anyways, out there, people, sometimes I forget my stuff here. But thanks for tuning in to Radio Wigwam here. We got a few more questions. We're going to be sitting down just a little longer here with David. Also, I want to recognize that this show is sponsored by Alyssa Ebersold Concert Photography and Graphic Design. She shot photos for not only me, but a lot of local bands, and she does a lot of touring artists too, like Daughtry, everyone that comes up here in the Northeast. And if you're lucky enough, if you want to, grab her for a tour, do whatever you want. You know, she'll design logos and all that good stuff. And also, shout out, I am wearing the Pig Hog Cables t-shirt today, everyone out there in the audio world, because let me tell you, they treat artists very, very well. I've known them for a couple of years, and some of you guys out there know that we had a house fire last year, and I lost all the studio stuff, and they helped me out a lot with all the chords because almost all of my chords are Pig Hog. I have like over 100 something chords, so
that's awesome.
Them and a few other like Warm Audio and CAD Audio. Some of these brands are really good to artists, and that segues actually my next question, because I want to talk about if you have any endorsements and gears, and are you at a point where when you first started that there was a brand that really helped you out too, that necessarily was like, we don't just help out the big guys and this, but we want to help out everybody?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. So the first company I worked with before I stopped playing for a while was Shine Custom Drums, really small company.
Okay.
They're not a company anymore, but they definitely liked to help like more of the underground, like Warped Tour kind of bands, because I was in a pop punk band, and we did like that kind of show circuit, like I would say. But no, recently I've been with Spawn Drums for the last couple years. I used their kits for a while because I bought one used online.
Okay. I've heard of them. I've never seen one in real life.
Yeah, actually, you posted something about Red. I wasn't sure if you were just going to that show or if you know them or anything.
Yeah.
But their old drummer used to play Spawn.
Okay. I heard they're really,
Um,
really good. I've just up some reason up here in upstate New York, we don't get that brand. I've never seen it. I've always
well,
heard
it's
of
in
it.
Southern California. It's like the exact opposite
Yeah.
in the U.S. So
Yep.
they're a really good company. Brian Spawn is the owner. He makes most of the drums himself by hand.
Yep.
So you can't really get away from quality there because he's
Yep.
been doing it for quite a long time. He's actually a drum tech himself too. I think he's out with Gavin DeGraw, but he knows drums very well. So when you get a product from him, it's going to be nice
Yeah.
and really well made and taken care of. And he gives me a discount. I still pay for my gear, but it's a very generous discount.
Yeah.
And
That helps a lot too. It
does.
does.
So besides the drums, I have Simtech Cymbals. It's owned by Brian Spawn too. He's a partner in that company. So it's
Okay.
actually the same company-ish. So when I got on with Spawn and had the kit that I have out now, it's a gold glass glitter. It's actually gold broken glass glitter. All maple kit. Sounds really, really good. In any case, I also have the cymbal endorsement with them. So Simtech Cymbals, you can look them up, and Spawn Custom Drums. Both really good companies. I can't say anything bad about either of them, really. I mean, I just wish Brian could pump out more drum kits, but that would take away from the handmade side of it. So there's pros and cons. Obviously, if you go with a big company, you might be able to get free stuff. Maybe nowadays, I doubt it. You probably still have to pay anyway. So you might as well pay for a quality product that's made by somebody you can trust.
Handmade, especially handmade drums. Big difference. Was it SJC drums or something like that? They do homemade stuff too.
Yeah.
And
good company.
Yeah, they're really good too. I came across them, I think in like 2015 or so. They help out everybody. That's another brand. That's everybody.
Yeah, I have a few friends that play SJC.
What was your very first set you ever bought or got?
It was a Franken kit. So my parents bought me, I think I was like 14 or 15 when they got one of those first act drum kits.
Yeah.
I think they used to sell them at like Walmart maybe.
Did you break the skin like on the second?
No, I tried to get into playing it, man, and I didn't do marching band or anything, and I don't know if I was embarrassed because the quality wasn't good, or I know that they didn't like the loud noise, so there were limitations there. So I kind of gave it up for a little while. I got back into it like hard when my band or my buddy's band needed a drummer, and then I bought like a Pearl kit that was like random Pearl export drums. They didn't match. I think the kick drum was like a gray wrap, and the rack tom was like blue sparkle. Floor tom was like black, and I think I had another rack tom that I didn't really use very much that was red.
Yeah.
$300, bought it from a friend, and the rest was history. After that, I started to watch shows of my band when I joined, and I would take notes on how bad I was, like keeping time, making really, really funny faces because I didn't really know what I was doing. And just everything overall, like trying to find a way to get better. I just had to start practicing. Like until my parents screamed at me to stop making noise.
Honed in on your craft. That's really important too, because some things you don't even know that you're doing, and you could be like, that show was amazing. Everyone tells you it's really good, and then so you think you are really good for some reason, and you watch the footage back, and you're like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah. It's definitely important to do that. I still do that to this day. Most of the shows that we play, even if I don't post videos from each show, I try to record most of them with my GoPro.
Yeah, try to watch some. I love that footage too of you putting that up there because it gives a lot of behind the scenes stuff, promotes the shows, and from a drummer's perspective is different. You know what I mean? Then it's usually like the singer throwing some stuff. You know what I mean? But drummers, you get like that's the backstage. You're the drummer. You know what I mean? So it's cool.
I'm glad you like them because sometimes, obviously, doing this all the time, besides like still setting up my kit, still playing the show, still tearing down, and still trying to stay busy and work out when I can and be healthy on the road.
It's
a lot of work to film and still edit and be able to release. That's why I can't release things every single day.
Yeah,
from the same day I made it and upload it, because also signal's a thing on tour. People don't talk about that.
Yep.
Sometimes I have zero phone or internet signal. Sometimes the internet hotels don't work. Sometimes the venue doesn't have internet.
Yep.
So it's another thing that's
And
interesting.
act
But
like
yeah,
it's a guarantee nowadays. Like, well, there's internet everywhere. You can upload this, and
no,
people out there, like, you make a reel, right? You have to word it right, use the hashtags, you got to tag everybody right. That's only on Instagram. Then you have to take that video and do it 4 other platforms. I know it takes me about an hour, hour and a half a day to do a right reel, a certain way, and I'm like, I'm sick of this shit.
it's a
But
necessary evil,
it is. That's how I found you. Actually, was one of the reels popped up, and I was like, "Oh
Perfect.
yeah, I remember Aaron Lewis." And I was like, "Well, he must have got a different drummer." And I was watching some stuff, and I actually seen the vlog stuff on YouTube
Nice.
too, because I was like, "Okay, he does some studio stuff."
Yeah, yeah.
So
Try to. I mean, it definitely the pandemic was a good thing for drum covers and like setting up my own studio and learning
yeah,
more on the recording side of things.
yep,
Um, and I did do some tech tutorials too with a media company that did really good videos with me. Um, but those didn't really do much, but it was just kind of cool to show like my techniques on how I do things. And if people ever ask like, hey, how do you tune a drum or how do you go about teching? I can just send them the links to these, 10 to 20 minute long videos we made.
yep,
Hopefully they're self-explanatory enough to be able to either use that for yourself or get some ideas and make it your own.
yeah. I I'm trying. I don't have too many other drum questions here because I've drummed over the. What do you think of the electronic kits? I had a Lisa Strike Pro for a while, and some people are like, I've owned the Roland TD20 and a few other things. And what do you think about electronic kits?
Well, because of where we moved, I had to get one to at least
Okay.
have something to jam on. If you're going to go with an electronic kit, unfortunately, you're going to want to spend some money. If you want it to feel real, you want to get mesh heads
More
for
than a
sure.
regular kit. I mean, you're spending like Roland's got a $7,000 kit. I'm like, come
You don't need that unless you're like a
on.
professional for sure. I mean, or like somebody that just has money and is a hobbyist. But
Yeah.
I bought a used Roland kit. I forget. I think it's the TD17. It's the lower end one.
Yep.
Or middle of the road, I would say, because it does have the mesh heads or whatever.
It's the touring one.
The
They
V
called
drum
it
ones.
the Tour Head series. It's got the
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
So I bought that used or whatever, and you use a regular hi hat stand with it. It has like a remote clutch
Yep.
kind of thing. But yeah, it's okay. It's not going to be the same as real drums ever,
Yeah.
but it's a good solution to people that have apartments or places they can't make noise.
The
If you
other
stay fresh and like keep your chops up.
yeah, because you lose, you don't get that same hit. You don't get the same. Actually, the drums are spaced out wicked. You know what I mean, compared to an
Well,
electronic kit too.
yeah, you should be able to adjust them. So that's the one thing that I don't necessarily like about some of the racks that come with these electronic kits.
Mm.
They're kind of set up to not really be close to anybody's full size kit that I've been on anyway. Like nobody really plays like small.
Yeah, you could
They give
space
you
them
some
out. You got a
adjustments.
pad that's that small.
Yeah, yeah. That's the other thing is I need to
But
get some newer pads because even my like floor tom pads are only like this big. And
yeah, check
not
out
ideal.
the Alyssa Strike Pro or whatever their line is now. You can layer sounds. That's the
Cool.
key to making your set a lot cooler. Because I was like,
Okay.
the standalone sounds, I don't care what you do to them, they're just okay. They're
Right.
always okay. I've heard them live. What do you think? Like, there's bands like, I'm pretty sure they like Tremonti and stuff. They've used electronic kits on their records. I'm pretty sure, or the
Really.
samples and stuff over them. I know
Hmm.
people that actually used that same set. I forgot what the band was. Pretty big band too, and I was like, you use that? Oh, Powerman 5000 used electronic kit for a lot of their records.
Weird.
The last two or three, I remember
I
seeing some
I
pictures.
understand drum replacement, um,
Yeah,
but to record with it, I feel like the drummer would have to be really good at using an electronic kit, because
yeah,
it does feel very different. The
yeah,
rebound, especially on the cymbals, not even close to the same thing.
yep,
I guess the mesh heads are going to be the closest compared to rubber um, when it comes to feel, and the double bass pad I have now is a Roland one, but when I had a Roland kit a long time ago, I actually got a Yamaha. It was a bigger bass drum like sensor pad, and it actually felt a lot more real, like a real kick, because of how
yeah,
big it was. You know what I mean? Like
yeah. They're like this thick.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. So
could you actually
that
put a
would be
real
the.
head on that one? I know some do the coated heads.
No, it
Okay.
wasn't big enough for that. It was probably only like 12 or 13 inches, but it's
Okay.
still like the Roland one I have now is maybe 8,
Oh,
maybe.
okay. Okay.
You know what I mean? It's real
Yeah.
small, so 2 pedals can barely fit on it because I think they're really only were meant for one.
Yeah. I think it's so
Um,
cool that it's like you're doing country songs and like, well, I got a double pedal too, ready to go whenever I want to,
always.
or can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
It's there just in case because I don't know what each gig is gonna um, offer when it comes to any of that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I got to be ready
Yep.
just in case. But it's also a placement thing. It's really cool to be able to have my double pedal there because my hi hat's always in the right spot, even if the carpet gets messed up because I mark the carpet
That's
like I
true.
did for the drummers I've worked for. Just makes the day to day easier to
Yep.
have everything already memory locked and marked, so nothing changes.
It's great too if something happens to the right kicker quick, you can just go right to the
Yep.
left and at least finish a
100%.
song or something, you know.
Yep.
Which
Yeah, man.
that's
And you can throw in some double bass licks every now and then, even with some country stuff, just like little tiny fills every now and then.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I've heard them for
Like it.
some drummers. I was like, that was a double kicker.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Tasteful. I know
Tasteful.
some guys that I watch that are really, really good drummers don't use double kick, and some say it's cheating. But I'm like, you use 2 hands. Why can't you use 2 feet? I don't understand.
Yeah, yeah. Just vary it up. You know what I mean? Some hits are
Yeah.
like that. Some pros, like if you listen to like places that teach you drums and stuff online, like some of the really old guys will tell you that where it's like, well, the left kicker has a little different pressure, even though it's the same as this. And if you use it here and then you use this right to accent it, so you might be going like da 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 da, and he's like, do that da 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 da, and even the da da with the left first, and then combine it with and you could do the same thing with one kick, but somehow it's it's all about dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it
Yeah,
is.
I agree. Actually, to go back, I know you had asked and touched on this the teching thing. So I actually started working for All That Remains. Do you know those guys from that
Yeah,
area up
yeah,
there?
yep.
Okay, cool. So I worked for them for 3 years ish, 3 or 4 years up until 2019.
Okay.
So they were like the first band that kind of broke me into the teching side, and I helped with some playback and stage managing and smaller tours for the most part.
Okay.
But that just means the crew usually wears multiple hats. So it's
yeah.
great experience if you're looking to keep working your way up as a tech or even just stay in the music industry in general. I would always say go work for a band, even if it's a van and trailer tour, helping them out with everything they can because you will learn so much.
Yeah.
Because there's not really a school for techs. There are schools
yeah.
for audio production, obviously, when it comes to recording or live. And I know Nashville has some like audio guys that just focus on monitors for their degree and all that stuff, but they don't have a drum tech course anywhere. They don't have a guitar tech course anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I'm aware, they don't have a stage manager course anywhere. They don't have a production manager course anywhere.
No.
All of these things are huge jobs on tour, and you make great livings doing it. People just don't know about them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not something that you teach. A lot of stuff in the industry is not. You can't learn it. You have to experience it. You know, the sound stuff, definitely, but there's just a lot. Even like being a band manager, it's like I've seen some courses on it, but it's like there's no gateway. There's no like course that you can just follow and there you go. You know what I mean?
Nope. But yeah, that's definitely the start was with All That Remains for the most part. So they kind of launched me into the teching side of things. I networked with a lot of bands we had toured with, including Whitechapel, and I teched for them in 2016 for a lot of that year. And then I worked with Atreyu on Warped Tour at the same time as Whitechapel.
Wow.
So doing double duty on one tour like that was a lot.
Yeah, I can only
Obviously,
imagine.
you get paid double, which is cool, but yeah, it was long days, man. Warped Tour is crazy. You would load in at like 7:30 in the morning, and everybody loads in at the same time behind each stage. Everybody has their stuff in a semi. You set up all of your gear, and then you find out around 9:30 or 10 when you play that day because it changes every day. So some days I was like Whitechapel and Atreyu right after each other, same stage. At the time, Brandon was using 3 kick drums and a full 3-sided rack, a bunch of cymbals. Ben from Whitechapel, their old drummer, he was using 2 kick drums, a bunch of toms, a bunch of cymbals, and I had to work both those kits, changing heads every day, polishing everything up every day, tuning it every day.
Yeah.
And then when you have 5-minute changeovers, is what they want you to do. I'm taking one kit off, trying to put it away while putting another one back up. It's not really ideal, but man, talk about hardcore drum tech training.
Yeah. I always feel
learned how to
bad for the
do a
drum tech
ton.
guys because I go, they got the hardest job. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's all perspective. It's more physical most of the time.
Yes. I
But
always say you want to be a bass tech, man, you know?
Yeah. If you don't want to have to deal with too many electronics,
yeah.
Don't be a guitar tech, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Because those guys have to deal with a lot, especially with Kempers and all the different kinds of amplifiers and pedals and guitars. And It's an insane. Drums are just as complicated if you get into all the electronics, you know, or if you get into the playback side of it too, which I did. But I actually ended up wanting to stop teching in 2019 after I did a couple months with All That Remains and Attila. I was kind of just burned out because I wanted to play and I wasn't getting any playing opportunities. And being on the road kind of took away from my own personal practice time and my own development because I was only worrying about somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. And you don't have time to do it. So.
Right. So I quit kind of before their next tour. And then I started just doing construction again. And then I got the call to work for Marilyn Manson to do playback and drums for him.
That's right. Yeah. I read that too.
Yeah. So that ended up leading into the pandemic, which all of our tours got canceled, obviously. And then he got canceled, which is an unfortunate situation. He was always nice to me, and I don't know anything about any of the stuff he was accused of. Very professional to me and treated me very well. In any case, besides that, right after that, during the pandemic, I was out of a job, obviously. And that's when the Korn gig came along. And then that's how I met the guys from Stained. And that's why I'm here.
There you go. And you're still going to be on tour for a little, what's the end date for this year, you said?
So we have dates all the way up until September 4th, and then we switch to Stained for that whole month for the most part. And then I think the 28th or 29th, we go back to Aaron Lewis solo full band.
Okay. Yeah, because I read everyone in upstate New York, Indian Ranch is going to be the closest to me, September 3rd. And that'll be the second to last gig for you for there. Okay. A lot of your fans, what do they request the most? Like Country Boy, obviously Stained songs.
I would say they probably shout out the Stained songs more than the country ones. We usually open the set with Country Boy, so they don't need to request it.
Yeah.
We play it first.
Okay. Get out of the way.
So yeah, it's usually a lot of people shout Mud Shovel. We're not gonna play that. It's a little too heavy for this gig. It's even the Stained songs we do play, they're a little bit more ballady, like you were saying, with the steel or dobro. It changes it.
Aaron's more acoustic bass, even though it's a full band. It is more of an acoustic bass set to me because he's using it for almost every song, you know, and even songs like Outside. You know what I mean? That's a perfect one to do that way. But with that country twist, so I want to bring back everyone. If you've never seen Aaron Lewis on tour and you like the rock stuff, even if you don't like country, it's still Aaron Lewis, and they give it that country twist, which is cool. It's just not something that you're expecting. But then also the rock layer is still there because you have Aaron's vocals and then you have the same guitar parts. I can tell you though, the drum parts are different than
they are.
Yeah.
Yep.
As we talked about earlier.
Yeah, we play right here, and it's been a while. Are the two main full band songs we do with Stained music, and then he does an acoustic set at the end of our full band set.
Oh wow!
So we do about an hour of full band, and then he comes up and plays 30 minutes to an hour of just acoustic.
Wow.
But usually the lead guitar player comes out with an acoustic guitar with him, and then also our dobro player plays steel. He does both.
Yep.
But when he does the acoustic set, he only plays dobro, so it's 3 up front now, and it sounds pretty cool to have the dobro up there. It's a really interesting instrument that people don't really know about. Nice. A lot of people confuse it with a steel guitar because it has a similar twang because he uses a slide, you know?
Yeah, yep. That's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It adds to the dynamic, and people love the acoustic side of it too. But to have both full band and acoustic, you're getting like double for your money, kind of, because he does the acoustic tour so often. So it's probably nice to mix it up with the full band.
Yeah. So guys, definitely go out, grab some tickets, see David here on tour. I had another webcam right here. Sorry guys, right here. Thanks guys so much, very much for tuning in here. We're live every Tuesday night on 9 p.m. Eastern time, 8 p.m. UK time. All these interviews that we do that you hear are pre-recorded. I'm going to pull back the curtain because all you guys are on tour and studio time. It's whenever we're free. You know, I mean, we were going to do this earlier last week, but some
I had to reschedule. That's
yeah,
on me.
hotel. Well, it's on the hotel. I'm gonna blame it on that hotel.
Can't always check in early. Yeah.
Yeah, but I appreciate having you on here. Anybody out there, check out his vlog and his videos here, especially if you are a drummer and you want to learn some different things. You have some different styles in there. And just following the situation of somebody on tour, and if you're a musician and you love that kind of stuff, or you want to do it someday, you're really personable. So I'm sure if somebody messaged you and be like, I want to be a drum tech or something someday, he'd actually give you some advice.
100%. Yeah. We're all the same.
He confirmed it, folks.
Yeah, we're all the same. So yeah, it's David Nestor Drums on Instagram and YouTube. Those are like the main ones, and Facebook too, if you guys do Facebook.
All right. Well, follow him everywhere, and make sure you check out his stuff with Aaron Lewis here. Are you going to be on any music videos or records coming up with Aaron? That's what I want to know.
Not that I know of yet.
Okay.
There were some talks about that, but that's another conversation that will last a long time. But the Nashville style of recording, they usually use their in-house studio musicians, and then there's live musicians separate. So there's almost a whole different group that does it. So I hope to in the future, and I'm always open to do studio work and stuff, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
All right. Well, when you get your home studio set up, let me know, and then maybe we can get you on a Palangi track here.
I would love to be on one, man. That'd be a lot of fun.
That'd be cool. Do some hard rock stuff. Be cool.
I'm into that.
All right. Thanks, guys, very much for tuning in. We're going to have some more interviews coming up here. We usually have 1 or 2 a month. And then I've been mixing it up with playing songs from specific albums, too. Like I played the whole Master of Puppets record. Not just because it's Stranger Things made it popular again, but it's cool to actually, because I'm like, not a lot of people listen to the full records anymore. It's all on playlists and split up. Mm-hmm. So you're going to hear more of that kind of stuff. I think it went over well. And thanks, everybody, for tuning in with the Mixcloud, too. We've been top 100, whether it's garage rock, hard rock, classic rock, with, each show and each interview. So I don't know who's listening out there, so make sure you chime in on our social media, okay? And I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks, David, so much. I appreciate it. And we'll talk to you guys later.
Peace.